We're going to cover a few subjects today. Excuse me for using my cheat sheet, but I have to because there's a lot of things we're going to cover. I want the main focus today to be on grout, the complications of grout, where grout should be and where grout should not be. Grout is an instrumental part of installing a gate as far as water seal, moisture barrier goes. But there's also places on the gate that we don't want to see the grout, and I'll explain that later on in the video as we go. We're going to get started here, and first we're going to talk about anchor bolt location. Some contractors like to use their own template. For instance, they'll take the gate and they'll turn it over. They'll make their own template as far as anchor holes goes. They'll put that up against the wall, mark for the anchor holes, and then they'll proceed to drill for their anchor holes, install the anchors. You can either do that or you can use the gate as a template itself, depending on the size of the gate. It's a lot easier to work with a small gate than it is a large gate. When you're putting in the anchor holes and the template you're using, first of all, you want to make sure that your holes are very accurate. You want to make sure they're the right depth. You want to make sure that they're the manufacturer depth in relation to the anchor bolt when you put your holes in there. Real important thing here is once those holes are drilled, you take an air hose or an air nozzle and you blow the dust out of those holes. You don't want dust left in those holes when you go to put your epoxy in the hole or on the anchor. You don't want the dust mixing with the epoxy. There's a good chance the epoxy won't harden around the anchor. I'm having to use a cheat sheet today. Once you've blown out your holes and you're assured in your own mind that the anchors are in the right place, and you start epoxying them in, whether you're using a capsule epoxy or you're using a caulking type epoxy that goes in the hole and on the anchor, you want to look for two things. Make sure you have enough anchor length coming out of the wall to fasten your gate to. Most gates, all mechanical gates, require a 1-inch grout pad. Give or take a 1/4 of an inch, depending on how far the wall is out. The wall can be out to an extreme or not. Most walls, for the most part, over a 10-foot span is usually not more than a 1/4 to 1/2 an inch out, but that's enough that we have to use a grout pad in that case scenario. Anyhow, make sure you have enough anchor sticking out, and put something on that anchor, a square or something, to make sure your anchor bolt is square to the wall. You don't want a crooked anchor. When you're assured that your holes are deep enough, your anchors are epoxied in, you've got enough anchor coming out of the wall to mount your gate on, the anchor is square to the wall, it's good and hardened to allow good time for curing, whatever the manufacturer calls for on the anchor package. Then we'll start putting the gate on the wall. And what we're going to do there, we're going to use a double nut system. That means after the anchor is on, we're going to spin a nut on the anchor. We're going to put a washer on after that. Then we're going to put the gate on the anchors. Now, if you run into a problem where say you got one anchor a little off, or a couple anchors are a little off, there's two things you can do. You can auger out the hole a little bit, and I'd encourage you to call mechanical before you did very much ongulation on the holes, whether it be aluminum, stainless, or carbon. You want to get their permission if you have to do very much grinding. And there's also, if you put your anchors in properly, you can spit a nut on the end of the anchor. Make sure the threads are covered, and take a hammer and do what I call just a little tink job. If you have to move it a 1/16 to 32nd of an inch, just tink it over a little bit where it does meet that hole. But ultimately, once you have your washers and your nuts on there, you want to make sure that gate fits on those anchors true. You don't want those anchors coming out of those anchor holes at a 45 or a 30-degree angle. You want everything coming straight out of the anchor holes. So when you tighten up the other washer and nut that we're going to put on that stud after the gate's on the stud, it's called a double nut system. You're for sure that you're going to get your gate true side to side and up and down. Now I'm going to have John step in here, and he's going to show you the double nut system right now and how it works. Most all of our anchors are 3/4 anchors. I'm sorry, 1/2-inch anchors. We give you a 3/4 hole to work with, so there's a little play there. See John putting the level on the front of the gate. He's going to make sure, this is a simulated wall, and we're presuming our anchors are already in and straight. There's no problem. And he's going to take and he's going to use those nuts to level out that gate side to side, top to bottom. The gate's laying against the back nut and washer that he's already put on there before we put the gate on. And what he's doing, he's tightening up the nuts simultaneously to not just tighten, but lock the nuts together. And notice how he's using his level there to make sure the gate stays level. And he's got to level that gate top to bottom this way, and he's also got to level it side to side. This don't take very long. It's not a very long procedure. The larger your gate is, if you have a gate, this gate here is about 4 foot long. If you have a gate that's 20 foot long, it could take you a little longer because there's more anchors. Now he's checking the top of the gate to make sure the gate is level side to side. The gate's not set at off a true 90 on a 20-degree angle in relation to the wall. Once we get to the gate to this point and we've got it all leveled up and everything, here's where we come to the part about the grout I told you about earlier. Your grout fill, your grout packing, whoever does your grouting for you, it's going to be packed in behind the gate, underneath the gate. It's going to be packed just down the cross rail of the gate right here on both sides. There's a couple areas you really have to look out for, and I'm going to show you that right now. That's not only putting packing in here, but putting packing in here. What happens a lot of the time, the people doing the grouting will get in a hurry, and they'll get some of that grout, let some of it fall in here between the slide and the frame. We don't want no grout between the slide and the frame. All we want is grout behind the frame and the wall. And I'm going to tell you why we don't want that grout down the gate. Why I'm telling you that, John's going to open the gate for us right now, and I'll show you a few fine points. What happens, that grout gets in some ways in almost a liquid form, and if that grout is allowed to get between this cover and this neoprene right here, and it's in a slurry and it hardens, what's going to happen is that grout's going to stick first to this stainless, and then when that's a slide, and when you go to open it, it's going to tear this rubber out or tear a chunk out of the rubber, and our seal on our gate's not going to be any good. Now this is a neoprene seat. In a lot of cases, you not only have neoprene seats, but you have polyethylene seats. A lot of our gates have polyethylene seats. The grout does the same thing to them. It solidifies in between the slide and the plastic, hardens up, and then when you go to open your gate, it takes part of the plastic with it. Or that's good, John. Thank you, partner. It takes part of the plastic with it, and there goes your seal. You've got a water leak. So when you put your packing in here, In here, you can also see that your packing, you want to stop your packing all the way around. You want to stop the packing here. You don't want any of the packing in here. You don't want any packing coming down behind, getting in between this seal and this plate right here. If you get that grout in here, and like I say, it hardens, you've just lost the seal. Then you'll have to refer back to the first video we made on how to replace a seal. And we don't want that with a new gate starting out. And I want to make a special comment about the grout. All of our gates, all Mechanical Associates gates, require what we know in the industry is a non-shrink grout. That means when you pack it in, the grout hardens. There is other grouts on the market that are not non-shrink grout. And what happens when they dry, they have a tendency to expand. And once you get this gate level, you've got your grout packed in there, you've got an uneven wall, but you have a flat gate to the wall now, the grout being your water barrier and your leveler of the gate. We want that grout to stay in like you put it in. And if you don't use a non-shrink grout, what'll happen, it can implode on the wall in between that and the gate. And it can implode out of this invert area into the water area. And depending on if it's sewage or it's fresh water, the contractors don't like excess grout in their lines and stuff like that. In some cases, non-shrink grout, using grout that's non-shrink, can damage different parts of different gates. So we require that you use a non-shrink grout in every application for Mechanical Associates gates. And we ask that after your grouting is done, you can go back. If you feel you haven't got any grout in there, check for grout, open the gate, look at it, make sure you don't have any grout. Everybody walks away happy. And grout is a big destroyer of seals on gates, whether they're neoprene, whether they're polyethylene, polypropylene, whatever the seat condition may be. Grout will destroy it. If there's anything that I've said and you don't understand, feel free to call Mechanical Associates, and we can take it one step further and maybe cover some things that you might have a question concerning the grout and the way it can slurry between the rubber and the stainless steel. Okay? I think that'll about do it. Have a good day.